Good morning and welcome to the Sunday celebrations here for the Centers of Spiritual Living Denver. We are a loving and prospering community here in the heart of Capitol Hill and online. We know that with everything going on, life can feel overwhelming. Here at CSL Denver, we want you to know that we are here for you. Please know that our practitioners are available for prayer work with you. Our names and phone numbers are on the website at www.csldenver.org. Or if you have a prayer request, please email it to info@csldenver.org. Reverend Elzia, along with all of our guest speakers, all of our practitioners, our music and service coordinators, want you to know how truly grateful we are for your online support. Thank you for watching our Sunday services, attending our online workshops and events, and providing financial support so that we can keep our virtual doors open. We love you all and know we'll be seeing you in person in the right and perfect time. And now, we'll continue to meet online until further notice. If you're interested in upcoming events and information, we send out weekly newsletters. Please go to www.csldenver.org and sign up for our newsletters. We only send out one per week. Or send an email to info@csldenver.org and request to be put on our mailing list. This week, we are having our usual Zoom fellowship right after service. If you haven't already received an email this morning, please send an email to info@csldenver.org to request a Zoom invitation. Please join us. We would love to say hi and catch up with you. That's it for the announcements this Sunday. Again, thank you for tuning in, and now back to our service.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angel wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Good morning, everyone. And we do feel the presence this morning. And if you're comfortable, just close your eyes and turn within. And we know this morning that the presence is here within us and is surrounding us. And it is blanketing us in love and guidance and support. We know that the service this morning is blessed, that the music is blessed, that Reverend Celeste's message is blessed, and that we just honor and celebrate all that make this service come together this morning. We also spread healing over the planet and all the communities that are suffering from the events that have happened in the last week. We know that in this space, we are able to turn and look at the helpers, and we bless the helpers, And we bless all those that are honoring the presence of Spirit, whether they are worshiping on a hillside, in a temple, in a mosque, on a church. We just know that this presence is so beautiful, so honorable, so incredibly loving and healing, that we know that with all that is unfolding, there is always, always this presence, and we can turn within and know it. And so it is. In our reading this morning, let's go back to one of the greatest thinkers in history for a quick lesson, Albert Einstein. His influence stretches far beyond physics and science, and into this quote, "Live your life as if nothing is a miracle," or "live your life as everything is a miracle." How do we even make sense of this thought? It's contradictory. How can something be a miracle and not be a miracle at the same time? Quite simply, it's because even the most commonplace things require a seemingly infinite amount of events to have gone a certain way for them to exist exactly as they do. Another way of putting it, the precise randomness of the world's history created one specific output from an infinite amount of possibilities. So everything around us is the result of the smallest of probabilities, yet it beat all odds and happened. That's pretty miraculous, if you ask me. Relating to this optimism and understanding this crazy phenomenon built into everything, it's your choice to see that process as normal. You can see how everything is normal and abides by it, or you can see it for the incredible miracle that it is. Choosing to see things as a miracle requires a sense of awe, wonderment, and curiosity into your environment. It makes you pause more often and be mindful of the incredible complexity that exists within everything. With the innate fulfillment and joy that can be drawn from such emotions, you'll recognize that there is so much good in this world when you start to see it. It's kind of out there and transcendental to think about things in this way, but think about your current situation and think about how different things could be if that one small thing didn't happen exactly how it did. Multiply that by thousands or millions of other things that could have gone differently, and you'll start to see what I mean. Live your life as everything is a miracle. And Ernest Holmes reminds us of this fact when he says, "Work with your consciousness until it ceases to function on the level of problem and begins to function on the level of answer. It is mathematically certain that your problem will be solved if you do this." You may not find this the easiest thing to do in the world, but even though it may be difficult at times, you must never permit yourself to become discouraged, for the reward is certain. And now back to Susan Clark for Hey, Hey, It's a New Day. Thank you.
Hello and greetings. I hope everyone is doing fantastically well during this first week of 2022. I picked out a song this morning that was written by Eddie Watkins Jr. I got to work with Eddie a few years back when I was the music director at the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living in Albuquerque. And I want to tell you what a powerful presence he is to be around. And he's also a wonderful songwriter. Eddie does have a new album out right now called A Better Yesterday. So please check that out, A Better Yesterday by Eddie Watkins Jr. In the meantime, this is an older song of his. It's called It's a New Day. And it does have some audience participation in it. And I'm going to show you your part. It's very simple. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, she's coming to us virtually. But I'm here to tell you, I can feel it when you are singing along. Okay? So here is your part. You ready? Quick rehearsal. Hey, hey, it's a new day. That's it. Pretty simple, huh? Hey, hey, it's a new day. All right, let's get started. Let's claim our good and speak our word and release it to the universe. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Right here is where we take a stand. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Compassion for our fellow man. Right now we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Hey, it's a new day. All together, hand in hand. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Compassion for our fellow man. Right here we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Every day I'm filled with wonder by the glory of the silent thunder unfolding from down under. Subject in our love. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Right here is where we take a stand. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Compassion for our fellow man. Right now we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Hey, it's a new day. All together, hand in hand. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Sing our love across the land. Right now we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Hey, it's a new day. All together, hand in hand. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Sing our love across the land. Right here we're making a difference. Oh, it's a new day. Hey, it's a new day. You're still with me? Let's sing it a couple times. Hey, it's a new day. Again, please. Hey, hey, it's a new day. One more time. Hey, hey, it's a new day. Just like that.
Hey, hey, it's a new day. Thank you so much, Susan. So happy to have you as our guest musician today. And we are so excited to have as our guest speaker today, Reverend Celeste A. Frazier. She has been the senior minister and spiritual leader of 3 Centers for Spiritual Living, Power of Oneness Spiritual Center and the DuPage Center for Spiritual Living, both in the Chicago area, as well as the East Bay Church of Religious Science in Oakland, California. An ordained minister, Reverend Celeste, has recently started diving deeper into her digital ministry with her podcast, Mystic Magic. Celeste was a diversity trainer and a certified regional visioning coordinator with the Centers for Spiritual Living. Reverend Celeste regularly facilitates visioning workshops in churches as well as for individuals and corporations. She teaches many other spiritually transformational courses and workshops. In addition to her latest book, Divine Workplay, Celeste's previous book, In Spirit, in Love, is also available on Amazon and Kindle. She is a contributing author to several anthologies and has contributed her writing to publications such as Agape's Inner Visions, Creative Thought Magazine, Creative Thinking, and the Science of Mind magazine. So stay tuned for her next book, Common Miracles, Frequent Illusions, with an expected release in the winter of 2021. So please help me welcome Reverend Celeste Frazier. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Alice. Good morning, everybody. In the beginning, God. What a way to start, right? Everything starts with God. And so most people think of the Bible as history so that it might start to translate into everything started with God, as if that was past tense. But those are the first 4 words of the Bible. In the beginning, God. So what do we say in our religious science declaration of principles? We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. And the first slide says, this one manifests in and all through creation. Now, as Alice said, I have a podcast. It's called Mystic Magic. It's on all your favorite podcast venues, and it's on Unity Online Radio. First shameless plug, or last, not sure yet. My latest podcast released yesterday was me interviewing Dr. Amit Goswami. And for those who have gone through ministerial school, then they remember how he drilled into us that consciousness is the ground of all being, right? And so in quantum science, everything is either a possibility as a wave, or it's an object, it's a particle, right? So when the Big Bang occurred, he said, then sentient beings had come to be, because there has to be someone who sees it in order for it to become an object. So until then, we were all in the field of possibilities. And so here we are as we begin to think about, what do I want to come forward in 2022? What are the possibilities? Until I can see it, I cannot be it, right? So here we are listening to this idea about what might be possible for me. And so when you listen to the podcast, I know you will, you'll also hear about how reincarnation has been scientifically proven. Yes, there is empirical data that has repeatedly proven that, which Ernest Holmes told us, right? So in this slide, that very first slide, you may notice that there's a dead tree stump there. And in spite of that seeming dead tree trunk, there's new life sprouting out from it. Green, vibrant, sturdy, even though small, right? So that's the same thing that's happening with us. Whatever part of us that we think might have died, there's still a new life that is waiting to emerge or is already emerging. And we can trust that. We won't let Newtonian logic compute this out of our brain, but quantum consciousness continues to reveal the infinite nature of God. Now, in the Hindu faith, the Upanishads start with a peace chant. Om, that Brahman is infinite, and this universe is infinite. The infinite proceeds from the infinite. And so taking the infinite or the finitude of the infinite, it's still Brahman alone, which is God. So Brahman is the ultimate reality, but it has many names. God has many names. And so the cosmic mind in the Science of Mind textbook is defined as the mind of God. Now, I know you all heard about Sidney Poitier making his transition. That was quite a hit for me. I had a lot of affinity for him. And I remember a story that Paul Newman told years ago. It was a story of him and Sidney being out. They were talking on the street, and Paul Newman said something to the effect of, I think the big G God and the little G God within us are one. And Sidney said, yes, 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 yes. And he started jumping up and down all in the street. So Paul said, I'll never discuss spirituality or religion with him again. But I did notice that when they did the tribute, you're seeing a lot of different clips around Sidney Poitier's life. When they did the clip from the Kennedy Center tribute, I saw Paul looking up at him while Jesse Norman was beautifully rendering Amazing Grace. And it was a moment. And I know that they connected, probably recounting that conversation. We're going to fast forward to a slide. It's the fifth slide. It has just a quote on it, no picture. Every microcosm, every inhabited region has a center. That is to say, a place that is sacred above all. So know that there's something within us that is sacred. Nothing can take that away. Okay? And so the first Upanishad is the Brihad Uranakad Upanishad that came after the peace chant. And so it says, the head of the horse is the dawn. And that's something. It says, to those who wish to turn away from this relative world, Sarah, the knowledge of the identity of the individual self and Brahman, which is the means of eradicating the cause of this world. Okay, so it's basically saying, wake up and leave your ignorance behind, right? The head of the sacrifice. Sacrifice means to make sacred, right? So what I want to recognize about myself is that I am sacred. In the Bible, horses symbolize freedom or war or power or glory. So they're symbols of strength and force. And they also represent determination and a new beginning. But the dawn is the most important part of this for me. I want to see the light rising. I want to leave the darkness behind. I want to leave the heaviness behind. A Course in Miracles tells us nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And I keep reminding myself of that on a regular basis. So let's leave the unreal behind. And let's be present to what is real. In Buddhism, the first sutra is Atha, which means now. When do I want to leave the unreal behind? Now, right? So, you come to centers and churches and ashrams to remember who you are and whose you are. You are too cherished, too adored, and too precious in the eyes of God to see yourself any other way. So, child, you better love yourself. Treat yourself better. Love loves you. I love you. God loves you. There's a song that has the lyrics, now that I found love, what am I going to do with it? Well, my answer to that is share it. Once you've fallen in love with yourself, then you're ready to add another to the mix, and not 1 second before, okay? Now, since God is manifesting in all creation and everyone is sacred, who is not sacred? Who could be outside of God? No one. Look, I know the perception is that we're divided as a nation and that we are divided nations and that the theory of the United Nations is simply a wish and not a reality. All of those perceptions are lies. There may be empirical evidence to the contrary, I know, but at the level of the absolute, it's true. We have something called capital punishment. Well, they definitely capitalized the P in punishment with that one. How can killing someone else bring back the dead person? It's not that act that does it. The person will reincarnate, but that's not your business. That's God's business. But somehow we think we need to be the ones who punish someone. And punishment is not even that harsh sometimes. Sometimes we decide we're not going to talk to someone. Well, again, unless there's a true physical harm to avoid, how can not talking to people lead to resolution? Can we allow ourselves to have a new thought people? Can we open up our minds to other possibilities? I'm just asking. So let's recap where we are so far, right? Everything begins with God. We want to awaken and leave ignorance behind, and we want to start now. Let's set an intention to honor our sacredness. Let's resolve to do so. That means let's decide firmly on a course of action based on our sacredness. I didn't say make a resolution. I said let's resolve. Okay, that's different. A resolve is a determination, right? So with the new dawn, with the new understanding, with the new day in which I am realizing who I am, I can affirm I allow myself to release attachments and perceptions, right? All that old stuff, those old beefs, those old arguments, those relationships that you're holding your jaw tight about. We're letting that go, right? In this slide by Richard Rohr, he tells us, I don't have to prove anything. There's nothing to prove and there's nothing to protect. I am who I am, and that's enough. Too many times we're in fear. And while in fear, we do wretched, reckless things. In fact, I will venture to say that we do the most harm when we think we are protecting ourselves. I know it's true for me. Fear can be so insidious. We may decide to remove someone from our lives because we think they might hurt us. We can't help that we care about the person, but we think we need to protect ourselves. We may sabotage relationships and really end up hurting ourselves. Now, I'm not talking about abusive relationships. Leave those immediately for your own safety. I'm talking about relationships that are fragile. It may be in the beginning of a romantic relationship, and we may bring our old hurt back in the past to the new relationship, expecting to be hurt. And we might distance ourselves so that we're not so emotionally invested. It's probably just me. I'm probably the only one who does that. Bear with me in the slight chance that there might be one other person in the building who does this. If I say I love God, but I don't act like I love myself, I'm a liar. So let's start with the most primary relationship, me, myself, and I. We've already said God manifests itself through all creation. I'm a creation. You're a creation. When I don't think I'm enough, I don't think I deserve happiness. If I've let a past experience color my perception of myself, I've given my power away. I've kicked my own divinity to the curb. I've diminished my own light. And I have disrespected God, who gifted me with brilliance and magnificence. I was made in the image and likeness of the divine. And if that's not enough, I don't know what is. In this next slide, we see Ubuntu. In certain regions in South Africa, when someone has done something wrong, he's taken to the center of the village. And for 2 days, they speak to him of all of the good that he's done. They believe each person is good. Yet sometimes we make mistakes, which is really a cry for help. They unite in this ritual to encourage the person to reconnect with his true nature. The belief is that unity and affirmation have more power to change behavior than shame and punishment. This is known as Ubuntu, humanity toward others. Now, don't you need to reconnect with your true nature sometimes? You better. The belief in humanity is to say, I am because we are. A Course in Miracles tells us that you may think holiness is impossible to understand because you cannot see how it can be extended to include everyone. And you know it must include everyone in order for it to be holy. It tells you don't concern yourself with extending holiness because you don't understand the nature of miracles. Miracles are really very simple, but we try to make them complex. It's really saying that unless you are conscious that your mind is one with the mind of God, you cannot participate in extending holiness. So the Holy of Holies back in the day when Solomon made the temple, they even had this ornate place that was reserved for only a few, and it had to be specifically designed so that there was a separation, even though it was a thin veil. That hasn't worked for us so much, this separation from God. And we've been so programmed repeatedly to see separations. We've been indoctrinated into separation thinking. And we have moments when we know our oneness with God, but unless you constantly practice the presence in your everyday life, the concept just doesn't stick. So let's say together, I am present to the wholeness and connectedness of all that is. You can type it in the chat. I am present to the wholeness and connectedness of all that is. Now, the way that I practice the presence as a practitioner is to practice oneness through love. The way that I practice the presence as a minister is to support people with love. Now, whether or not you are licensed as a religious scientist, the invitation is to always see people as whole. The invitation is to start with yourself, of course. And the only identity that I need to preserve and persist in practicing is that of human. As a human, I get to care for all. As a human, I get to start fresh with each person without judgment. And in releasing attachment, expectations, and intellect, now nobody cares how smart you are, we can find creative ways of being present with life. I'm just kidding about nobody cares about how smart you are. It's really to say you don't have to try to puff yourself up, because remember Richard Rohr said, I don't have anything to prove. So as we look at this last slide, it's another affirmation. I am present to the wholeness and connectedness of all that is. When I'm present to my wholeness, it's because of my spiritual practice. When I'm present to my connectedness, it's because of my spiritual practice. Principle without practice is simply jargon, which my students would tell you I have no patience for, right? So we must practice the presence with everyone we can, whenever we can, wherever we can. And when we shine our light, we show that it's possible for others to do so as well. There is that within each individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness insofar as it operates as God. Say to your neighbor, I love you, God. Say to your family member who's there, I love you, God. Type it in the chat, I love you, God. I invite you to say, I awaken and leave ignorance behind. I start now. I decide on a course of action based on my sacredness. I practice the presence with everyone. I love you. Namaste.
Thank you, Reverend Celeste. That was a beautiful, powerful message. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, it is time for our offertory now. We are so grateful and blessed for everyone's support of CSL Denver, whether it's in time, treasure, or talent, and especially during this time of change. Whether this is your first time joining us or you are a returning community participant, we want to thank you for your continuing financial support of the important work we are striving to provide. Right now, there are several ways you can make your financial contribution to Center for Spiritual Living Denver. This information is running along the bottom of the screen. If you haven't already done it and you shop at King Soopers and or Amazon Smile, you can link your account to Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Our center will then receive a percentage of all proceeds. Email us if you would like more information on this option. Now, please repeat with me our usual affirmation. This perfect gift is spirit in form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give, and joyously I receive. And finally, we have some announcements. Our usual virtual fellowship on Zoom is this morning. We would love for you to come join us and let us know how you're doing. If you did not receive the Zoom invitation earlier this morning, please send an email to info@csldenver.org and mention fellowship, and we'll send you a Zoom invitation right away. We have a couple of new events coming up that we want you to know about. We have a new class called the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of Science of Mind, Practical Applications for Using the Science of Mind Principles. It's being facilitated by our Reverend Elzia Sekou and will be 2 Monday evenings, January 17th and the 24th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. This class will be via Zoom, so please send an email to info@csldenver.org to request an invitation and if you would like more information about the class. We also have a book club starting in February. The book we'll start with is Becoming Supernatural, How Common People Are Doing the Uncommon by Dr. Joe Dispenza. The book club will meet the second and fourth Thursday of each month from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So for February, mark your calendars for February 10th and 24th. The book club will be via Zoom, so please send an email to info@csldenver.org to request an invitation and if you would like more information about it. Please read the first 2 chapters before February 10th so we can discuss. And I just want to mention that book is a little more pricey, but we're going to stick with that book for almost a year. So you won't be purchasing another book throughout the rest of the year as we work through that book. Meanwhile, we hope you have a wonderful week and affirm right here and right now that 2022 is blessed and perfect in all that it is. We love you and miss you. Please take care of yourselves. And let's close out with I release and I let go. Have a great week.
There was a time in my life, thought I had to do it all for myself. Didn't know the grace of God was sufficient. I didn't know the love of God was at hand. But now I can say, if you are discouraged, struggling just to make it through another day, you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. You gotta let